Hi, my name is Christine Von Lossberg, and I'm going to read you a story I wrote a long time ago, probably around 2005. Well, now I'm 70 years old, and it's taken me this long time to even read it. So I found it, and here we go. I haven't read it for all these years, and it's called The Other Cats. It's kind of long, so get comfortable, or you can always come back and hear the end of it. And so here we go. The Other Cats. This is a story about the rarest cats in the world. The young female Sharinda didn't understand that. She just thought that she was a regular cat and that all cats must be like her and her family. They all felt that way, for they had only known each other. Her family came from a far, far away place somewhere near Tibet. They were of ancient royal lineage. Sharenda's grandmother, Tiva, wore a diamond collar, and her grandfather, Shantu, wore a sapphire one. She wore pearls and amethyst, and her brother wore blue lapis. Her mother and father wore rubies and emeralds. They were so used to having such lavish things, for they were more than royalty. They were the other cats. Their fur was very long and bunny soft. They were the only lavender cats anyone had ever seen, except for the royal household. They had brilliant turquoise blue eyes with black eyeliner and soft pink ears. They were indeed exquisite and truly the rarest breed. One day, without warning, Sharinda was sold with her parents and little brother. Her grandparents were to remain at the palace with the kind and gentle king and queen. Now they lived in a place called America. They had been purchased by a very wealthy man who lived in a huge mansion on a lovely green countryside that spilled over into giant cliffs which overlooked the sea. The man that owned them had everything he ever wanted. He paid a fortune for the four of them. They were his most prized treasures. He valued them far and above his masterpiece paintings, his mansion, his yacht, or anything else he owned. They were living art, living gems, the rarest of the rare. Sharinda missed her grandparents Shantu and Tiva. They were so far away now, but there was nothing anyone could do about it. She was happy that she had her parents and little brother Shantor, even though he would go off into his own world most of the time. When she would catnap, she would dream about when they would play with her grandfather Shantu all around the palace. They would try to get her tail, and she loved that. Grandmother Tiva loved to play around too. They would roll around and around on the tapestry carpets over and over again until one of the servants would try to catch them. Grandmother Tiva and Sharinda loved to make him chase them all over the grand palace. Sharinda learned a lot from them, as did they all. Even though she missed them so, she knew that they would remain in loving hands at the palace. It was the only home they had all ever known. Now she, her parents, and Shantor would play their with them in their catnap dreams. They had their very own special room in the new mansion. It was gigantic. It had everything a cat could possibly want. There were living trees to climb on, cat scratching poles galore, tons of catnip and toys. There was even a small pool with a waterfall and a nice big log to sit on and hide in. Little goldfish were in the pond to try to catch, and the rocks were made up the waterfall were covered with ferns and moss. In fact, there were plenty of plants all around the room to go hide under. The walls were painted as a mural that covered every inch, including the ceiling, It had scenes of the outside world painted on it. Beautiful mountains, lakes, the ocean with the sunset, trees and meadows with flowers, a blue sky with white fluffy clouds on the ceiling. Butterflies and birds and many little creatures were painted within the plants and on the trees. It was magnificent, painted to perfection. None of them had ever been outside before. They were never let out because one of them surely would be stolen. After all, they were the rarest cats in the world. They did love the murals and figured out that that's what the outside must be like, but they didn't really know for certain. The old man had only one other treasure that he valued even more than the other cats, and that was his little granddaughter Laura. She was 10 years old and was the light of his life. It was Friday night when Laura came to visit. She pulled up in a white limousine in front of the huge white mansion. She went to private school and would visit her grandfather once a week, Friday nights until Sunday night. That was the rule. It was their weekly ritual that never changed even once. Grandfather Vincent was all she had too. Her parents had passed away when she was only 2 years old. Her life revolved around her grandfather. She loved him more than anything. There was nothing she could ever own or could ever own that could ever replace her love for him. Laura had everything a little girl could ever want. She had 2 ponies, a llama, every toy you could possibly play with, and the prettiest handmade one-of-a-kind dresses that were designed especially for her. All she had to do was say something, and more than often than not, it would be hers. Grandfather Vincent greeted her as always with the huge doors of the mansion, with his arms wide open to give her his big hug. He would pick her up and swing her around. Laura loved that part of the best, and she would yell, "Wee!" and both would laugh together. "Hi, Angel, how are you, my little sweetheart?" Grandfather said as he put her down. "I'm okay, I guess. We are learning history. I think I'm too young for it. I really don't get it at all, and I feel like an idiot sometimes," Laura said. "I know what you mean, honey. Sometimes there is so much to remember. Well, just don't pass any words you don't understand. I always tell you to look up the words in the dictionary that you don't really understand. And when you know the words, you get it, right? You will never feel like an idiot, honey." Grandfather was on a lecture roll again. Laura felt a little better. But it was still hard, she thought. She smiled at her grandfather. "I know. I'll look it up, or I'll ask you. You've been everywhere," she laughed. They walked into the huge, sprawling living room. It was full of antique furniture, rare tapestry rugs, paintings by the masters, magnificent murals, statues, huge ferns and plants in giant marble and brass containers. There were many collections of rarities from all the corners of the world that were safely on display under glass. There was a painting of her grandmother Elsa that hung regally in the center wall, framed in a golden ornate frame. Her beautiful grandmother Elsa. She looked just like a queen, the Grandma Queen of Hearts. She was in heaven with her parents too. They both knew that. She knew just how much her grandfather missed her. He would talk about her, telling stories about their life together. Laura would listen to him and go on, hanging on every word. She missed her grandma Elsa too, and would also tell stories about her parents too, knowing how it made them feel like they were still right there with them. In many ways they were. Did you have a nice trip to Tibet, Grandpa? Laura asked as she sat down on the white satin antique couch and reached for an apple that was sitting in a gold bowl on the white marble table. Well, as a matter of fact, I did. Yes, I did. It really wasn't exactly Tibet, but close to there. I can't even pronounce its name. It was such a secret place, Grandpa laughed. Tell me about it. What is it like there? Laura asked. She relaxed back on the soft satin pillow on the couch to hear this new story. Well, I went on the top of this mountain that had been the tallest mountain I had ever been on in my entire life. I had to even ride a donkey on there most of the way to get there. No car could ever possibly make it that high. Plus, the roads became very, very narrow. Thank goodness the donkey had great balance. He was just trotted along like he was walking to the store. I just closed my eyes a lot until finally arrived at this little beautiful city that was nestled between the mountains in a green valley hidden way up there. Grandpa explained as he looked up in the air, seeing it all again. A donkey? Grandpa, you could have fell off. I've ridden many a donkey in my day. I'm here, aren't I? You sound just like your Grandma Elsa. She was not crazy about them either. Grandpa laughed. Well, thank you. Laura looked at her grandmother's painting and smiled. There were wonderful people there, honey. They could only ask what they could do for me. I was so impressed with their loving ways and generosity. They didn't know I was wealthy. They were just that way. They brought me all around the city to their humble homes and temples. They fed me and showed me their artworks, which were exquisite. I had to buy some. See over there? Grandpa pointed to the one wall, and there were two beautiful, intricate tapestries hanging on a golden rods. Oh, they are gorgeous. I love people like that. They are not just being nice so they can get something from you. That is really great, Laura said. So then I finally told them I wanted to go up to the palace. They said that no one ever goes up there, but I told them that I really had to get there because they have something that I wanted to have, Grandpa said, making Laura really open her ears now. Something you want? What, Grandpa, what? Laura asked. Well, I heard that there was something there that no one else had, and I wanted it, and I wanted it badly. I was determined to pay any price for it, Grandpa said. I guess they found out that you had money, right? All that at that point, yes, they did, especially after I offered the city $1 million for the art, which also included bringing me to meet the king, Grandpa said as he winked. I bet they were really happy then. Laura laughed, ecstatic. The next thing I knew, I was at the palace with the king and the queen, Grandpa said. Wow, what was it like? 10 times bigger than this place. We have 48 bedrooms, and they had 500. It was the biggest palace I ever had seen. Even in my entire life, it was just beautiful, beyond beautiful. Grandpa smiled. The king and queen were in great need of money for their little secret kingdom. They wished to keep it as it had been for thousands of years. What had been happening was their people had been leaving to start their lives in other places because times had become very hard because of weather changes. So it was so sad because they were so kind and innocent. When someone would come back, they would be so different, harder. After going out to the outside world, a lot of money could help them, so that's where I came in. Plus, they like me. Grandpa smiled. So what did you get? I can't take it anymore. Laura was on the edge of her seat now. Follow me. Grandpa led her down the long hallway to one of the many rooms. He looked back and forth to make sure there wasn't any of the servants around. Open the door very, very slowly, but first close your eyes, Grandpa instructed. Sharinda, Shantor, and their parents had been very accustomed to their new surroundings. Their parents, Shika and Solite, particularly liked the trees, and they found their favorite spots right away, and they were hanging comfortably on their branches. Shantor couldn't stay out of the catnip and was going for the fish. Beautiful Sharinda was curled up on the catpole's ledge when the door opened slowly. They all looked up and peered at the door as if it was ever so gently opened. When Grandpa said, "Open your eyes," Laura almost lost her breath. She put her hands on her mouth. She couldn't believe her eyes. "Have you ever heard of purple cats?" Grandpa laughed. "Oh, Grandpa, they are beautiful. They are more lilac or lavender, though. I just can't believe it. And they look at their eyes. They are so turquoise. And their eyeliner. I love them." Laura was just beside herself with excitement. How did how do you like the way the room is fixed up? Pretty nice, eh?" Grandpa said. "It is fantastic, Grandpa. I can't believe you had this all done so fast," Laura said, looking around at their beautiful environment. "I've been planning this for a long time, since I heard about them. I haven't been able to stop thinking about them. They are just the most incredible creatures I have ever seen. I haven't got to even get to know them yet. I wanted to wait to surprise you so we could do it together," Grandpa said. Laura and Grandpa walked over very slowly to them, holding hands. They both kissed the air, making little smacking sounds. Shantor, who was completely delirious on the catnip, went right over and started to twirl around Laura's legs. She reached down and scratched his head and back. Sharinda saw this and decided that she could use a back scratch too, and went right for Grandpa. Grandpa really let her have it good. He was an excellent scratcher, just like the king had been. Shika and Solitaire remained curled in their trees. They were just too comfortable to move. A few wags of the tail was all they could muster up. After peeking at them, they closed their beautiful turquoise blue eyes and went back to their catnip dreams. Grandpa and Laura picked them up and kept on massaging them and talking to them. They still wore their beautiful collars, which Laura loved. She thought they were gorgeous on them, but not as beautiful as they were themselves. They may have as well have been baby unicorns. "Sweetheart, this is very, very important. They are to be our secret. No one can know about them. The maid, butler, garden cook, chauffeur, friends, no one," Grandpa said. "Really, not even our friends?" Laura asked. She could hardly wait to tell her friends at school. She had already pictured the looks on their faces. "Maybe one day, just not now. I just think it would be for the best. I really feel we should just have them as our secret for the time being," Grandpa said. After they left the other cats' rooms and went out to the backyard and sat in the gazebo for a while to talk about the other cats. They were their own special secret and the only they could share. They called them the other cats because they really could not reveal who they really were, the Katsowakachukata, which was really hard to pronounce anyway. Sharinda told her brother that she really liked the little girl, and she liked the old man too. Shantor agreed. They both said they were good scratchers too. Soon Shika and Solite came down from the trees. Shika said to her children, "We must be good to our people. They are very good to us. We will teach them many things in time. It is our purpose to show them to be really aware of other dimensions that we know of. I have already had dream thoughts from a female called Elsa, who was the wife of the old man, her husband Vincent." The children understood. They all knew well of the other dimensions. The king and queen themselves had been their students for years. Solitaire offered this suggestion: "Become close with the child. She is more in touch with her imagination right now. We will all be remembering for the old man. He is truly a gentle man and lonely for his family, as we are sometimes." They all understood and nodded their heads in agreement. Time passed by and daily visits occurred. They all became closer and closer until they loved each other very much. Vincent would go in at noon and give them fresh fish and pet them all. They adored Vincent and would replay memories to him from Elsa. Vincent would smile when they did. He was remembering things that he had totally forgotten about her. It made him so happy. He didn't know the other cats had anything to do with it. He told Laura everything. One day, while Shantar was playing with one of the butterfly paintings, he scratched at it so hard that all of a sudden he could see the outside world. The painting had been done on the window. He pressed his face against the glass, and he could see the backyard that led to the cliffs by the ocean. He could see the real sky and the real flowers and grass. He saw birds flying by and real butterflies that were fluttering in and out of the flowers. He was so wrapped up in the vision he almost forgot to tell everyone. "Hurry, everyone, come here!" he yelled. Everyone came over to see what he was yelling about. "Look!" Shantor pointed his paw at the hole that opened up to the real world. Everyone took turns looking out at the world's beauty. "There has to be a way to get out there," Sharinda said sadly. "We have to go and walk it. I can't stand being in here now, when all of that is out there." Sharinda almost began to cry. No one had ever seen the real outside. It did look like the paintings. They had been right. There was just no way out. They covered the hole with some leaves and decided that there was nothing that they could do about it, so they might as well be happy with what they had. They took turns and would look, and that was to be all there was to it. One night, when everyone was awake as usual, they all heard the noise at the same time. It was some sort of a scratchy noise, and it was coming from the window. Everyone went over there at the same time. Sharinda got to look at it first, and when she put her face against the glass, she saw another face looking right back at her. She jumped off the log 4 feet and came back down and ran and hid in the log. It was a cat. It was definitely a cat. It had gray, brown, and white stripes and green eyes, and it was big, Sharinda said as she shook hiding inside the log. Everyone wanted to look. They all took turns, and the cat just stood there, looking back at them. Its eyes were glowing. They were big and very green. When Solitaire the father looked, he said, "Who are you?" The cat said, "I'm Bob. I live next door. I'm a tomcat." "What exactly is a tomcat?" Solitaire asked. He had never heard of that before. None of them had ever seen another cat before. "Oh, I just prowl around and catch mice, find things in the trash cans, just have a good time," Bob said. "What is that on your neck?" Solitaire asked. "Oh, that. It's just my flea collar. Don't you have one?" Bob asked. "Well, no, I have these kind. I don't think I've ever heard of a flea. I didn't know they had collars," Solitaire said. "No, the collar kills them. They are little stinkers that get in your fur and bite you. They are a real pain, so this collar kills them," Bob explained. "Oh, I see. Very interesting. I suppose ours are just for looks," Solitaire said. "Pretty. You all have some really pretty ones. Wow. So what kind of cats are you anyway? Some kind of fancy new breed or something?" Bob asked. "Oh, it's a long story. Actually, what's left of an ancient breed. We are from the other side of the world. My parents are still there," Solitaire explained. "Oh, well, you want to come out and go for some leftovers? You can always have the good pickings in his cans, Grandpa does." "Well, we would absolutely love that. The only problem is we can't get out of here. We are stuck. We have never been in the outside world. Never," Solitaire said. All of the other cats yelled at the same time, "Never!" Even pretty Sharinda yelled out from the log, "Never? Ever? I'm going to have to think about this. How can I get you out of there? Let me see here. Maybe somehow I can get a hole going from this side, and you can get one going from that side, and then meet in the middle. Then we can all come out at nights and we can all go prowling," Bob said. "Brilliant! Absolutely brilliant! We shall start at once. Let's start in the corner there. It seems a little soft from the leaking water," Solitaire suggested. He was more than impressed with the intelligence of this so-called tomcat. He knew he had met his match. The digging began immediately. It took nights and nights until finally the middle was met. There, when their big paws touched, everyone cheered one big meow. This was the big night that they had waited for all of their lives. Freedom at last. It was heaven on earth. They can walk it, run it, roll it, and climb it all now. A lifetime of catnap dreams, grandparents' legends, all about to come true. It was really happening. First Solitaire crawled through. He took a deep breath and looked right straight up at the moon and stars. He felt the breeze blow through his long lavender fur. He shook paws with Bob. "Thank you, friend." "No problem," Bob said. Then it was Sheikah's turn. She crawled out and went right over and rolled on the grass. She laid on her back and looked up at the moon and stars. She sniffed the ocean breeze and sighed. It felt so good, so cool. "Ah, purr, purr," she said. Next it was the Catnip Kid's turn. Shantor made his way through, slapping paws with Bob, and went right for the flowers. He licked and bit at them, then rolled in the dirt and wouldn't stop. He spotted a grasshopper, and he was going to try to catch it. Last was Sharinda. She came through and sat there for a moment. She looked around at the beautiful grounds. She looked up at the moon and the stars. She smelled the ocean scent and began to lick her furry paw. She was so nonchalant, so gorgeous and fluffy. She had her grandmother Tiva's eyelashes, and was really the most beautiful, especially with her lavender fur reflecting the light of the moon. Bob stood there and stared at her and didn't say a word. It was true love. He finally got up the nerve to come over to her. He just stood there again, not knowing what he would say or do next. She looked at him like she had never looked at anyone before. She thought he was the most handsome thing in the world. How could she possibly have been afraid of him? She loved his stripes, his strong tomcat muscles, and his big green eyes. She was in love too, at least it sure felt like something. Neither one of them had been in love before. They just sort of acted silly and giggled a bit. Bob just looked into her big blue eyes and melted there, completely dumbfounded. Sharinda was melted into his big green ones, too. Solitaire knew exactly what was happening, and so did Sheikah. The same thing had happened to them. They helped them break the ice by coming over. "Come on, you two, let's go grab some cans," Solitaire said. Bob laughed at him. "No, it's let's go check out the cans." They all went over to see what was in the trash cans, except Shantor, who was still far too busy rolling in the dirt with the flour in his mouth, eyeing the grasshopper. Bob jumped onto one of the cans and knocked the lid right off, all in one swoop. He landed on another can next to it. Sharinda was so impressed, he pulled out some of the fish bones that they had already eaten. "Would you look at this? Look how much is left on there. It is a veritable feast. There's plenty for everyone." Bob was so excited. Somebody said Nobody said a word. They just went along with Bob's excitement, and all had some. Somehow it did taste better. "You want to go see something incredible?" Bob asked. "It's all incredible to us, Bob, but what could possibly be better than all of this?" Sheikah said. "Come on, follow me, I'll show you," Bob said. They they grabbed Shantor on the way and followed Bob as he strutted in front of them in the moonlight, and went about a block through the grass and the gardens until they came to the cliffs. There it was, the ocean. The moonlight was reflecting on the waves. It was magnificent. They all sat there staring at the water and listened to a song that the waves made crashing. No one could even meow, only purrs were rumbling through all of them. They truly did look magical sitting there. They were more precious than gems. Their long lavender fur and blue eyes reflected the soft white moonlight. But to all of them, Bob was the most special, the most rare and unique, because there was only one of him. "That's where the fish come from," Bob said, pointing his striped paw towards the ocean. "Oh, we wondered that," Sharinda said. "He is just so smart," she thought and sighed. Bob mustered up the nerve from somewhere, and he put his paw around Sharinda. She didn't move an inch. They looked at the moon and the stars and the waves. "He is just so romantic, and has such big muscles," Sharinda thought and sighed again. Sheikah and Solitaire did the very same thing. Shantar was spotted a lizard now and was doing his very best to catch it. It kept getting away, and he didn't give up until it was time to go. Then it ran down a crevice which led down the cliff. Shantar noticed it in his mind for the next time. They slowly strolled back to their room. They agreed that they would meet the next night. Bob covered his side of the secret hole with some leaves, and they covered their side with some fern fronds that Shantor had bitten off. They all looked through the hole in the glass and said good-bye. Sharinda was last, and Bob blew her a little kiss. Bob floated on air back to his garage all the way next door. He couldn't believe he had fallen in love. At least he thought that's what it was. It's gotta be, he thought as he fell asleep on his favorite tire that was covered by an old blanket. It was Friday afternoon, and Laura was back again. Grandpa Vincent picked her up and swung her around as usual. Laura loved it. She knew it wouldn't last forever, that one day she would be too big to pick up like that. How are our kittykins doing? Laura asked. Great, just great. I have never seen them so happy. It must be the spring, Grandpa laughed. Let's go say hi. I've been in there playing with them all morning. They went down the hall and came to the door. Grandpa looked both ways. No one of the servants would see them. He unlocked the door and quietly snuck in. All four of them came running over to her. See what I mean? Grandpa said. Laura petted them all the best she could. They were all around her, twirling around her legs until she just had to sit down. Then they all got on her lap and licked all over her face. Shantor tried to get on her head, but he couldn't manage that, so he just settled for her hanging on her shoulder. I can't get over this. They are really happy to see me, Laura cracked up laughing. Soon they settled down and purred. Grandpa had special baby pink shrimp to give them today. Num num, Grandpa said as he reached into the big pocket and pulled out a white bag that was full of them. The cats went crazy for them. Sharinda hid under the log to give to she hid some under the log to give to Bob later. She knew he would really love them, especially when he went so nuts over the fishbone. After playing with the cats for a couple of hours, Laura and Grandpa went in to have dinner themselves. When complete darkness fell, there was Bob looking in the window hole, smiling. Everyone quickly went out the secret hole, and it was earth heaven again. Sharinda gave Bob the shrimp. He was so excited that he ate them right up, and they were delicious beyond belief. She knew he would react that way and smiled at him until he popped the last one into his mouth. You sure eat good in there, Bob said, licking his paws. They all decided to check out the cans again. Bob did his trick and got right in there to see what the surprise was for tonight. Sorry, gang, looks pretty lousy tonight, Bob said. Then he jumped right up on the roof in one giant leap. Sharinda just couldn't get over him. What can't he do? She sighed and batted her eyelashes. Hey, it looks like something's going on down by the ocean. Let's go check it out, Bob yelled. Everyone agreed with one resounding meow. An adventure! We heard of these. Oh my, how exciting! Let's go right now, was the same thought they all had as they wagged their tails in unison. It was another beautiful night. Along the way, they noticed that the clouds were floating across the night. Again, the stars twinkled in their eyes. Shantor got caught up watching the clouds pass over the moon, another new wonderment for them, for him and all. He saw a few that looked like their goldfish, he thought. They all agreed. Finally, they made it to the cliff. They looked down at the waves and they saw a boat. That's what Bob was talking about. There were people down there and they were talking. Suddenly, the people began climbing up the cliff. They were wearing all black clothes and all of them were carrying black sacks over their shoulders. Then they said something about the purple cats. Bob didn't like the look of this at all. He never saw people do that before. He sensed the extreme danger and gathered everyone together and took them into his garage as fast as he could. Never ever had they run that before, that fast. Had really made them go. Everyone was out of breath, so Bob shared his bowl of water with everybody. All the lavender angel cats each found a place to sit. Bob apologized for his living conditions. He was a bachelor, and well, this is as good as he had it. Actually, the other cats found it quite interesting indeed. They had never seen a garage like that before. They had never seen a garage. There were just so many fascinating things in there to look at. To them, this was a grand adventure. To Bob, it was just a bunch of junk. Yet it was his junk, and he had become quite comfortable with it all. He realized that they really were interested in everything, so he proceeded to explain what everything was. Well, we have a nice hammer here. This is an old scream off the door. This is a box full of old dishes. This is some leftover Christmas paper. And this is a feather duster. He went on and on. Here we have some camping equipment. There's a tent. There's a stove. This is a broom which is used to sweep. That's a shovel. This went on for at least an hour. The other cats were completely enthralled. Absolutely fascinating, Solitaire said. I am just so impressed, Chica added. Well, this is really something, Chantor expressed as he played around with the feather duster. I love it. I just love it, Sharinda sighed. So, what do you think that those people wanted? Are you sure they said purple cats? Do you think they could be after us? Sharinda asked. The horrible subject had finally came back. Yes, I'm sorry to say I think they could be a real major problem here, Bob said. I think we should go back soon, Sheikah said. I think so too, added Solitaire. But I think you should go over there first and make sure that they aren't there. Then come back for us if it is safe. Solitaire put his paw down on this one. I agree. That's just what I'll do, Bob said. You can sit on my blanket, Sharinda, if you want to, Bob said. I would love to. Be careful, Bob, Sharinda said coyly and blew him a kiss this time. Bob caught the kiss and put it on his fat cheek and was out of there in a flash. He made it to the mansion and saw the man standing on the grass. The same ones dressed in black with those awful black bags. It was very scary. Bob knew for sure that the men were after them now. He would have to think of something fast. What to do? What to do? Bob was getting frantic. Then he remembered something from before. He went over to the side of the house and he saw the little light on the wall with the tiny red light. He saw the little box on the wall with the tiny red light. He jumped way up high, right in front of it. All of a sudden, real loud alarms went off, and all the lights came on, and all of the sprinklers started going off. The men ran as fast as they could and slipped on the wet grass. They tried to get up, but they were keeping on slipping and falling back down into the giant sprays of the sprinkler water. Vincent came out with his big shotgun that came from China. He told the men not to move. They laid there soaking wet in the sprinklers, and in 10 minutes the police were there, taking them away. Bob had watched the whole thing happen and laughed. When everyone was gone, he went back and brought everyone back safely to the secret hole. They were all safe and sound now. Bob had saved them. He was their hero. If only Vincent knew, he would give Bob all the shrimp and fish he could ever want. Suddenly their door opened and Vincent came in their room. They acted like nothing had happened. They pretended like they had been sleeping the whole time. Chantor even snored for a special effect. My babies, are you okay, little ones? Vincent asked. They all came over and swirled around his legs. Then he knew everyone was all right, and he sighed a sigh of relief. They know you are here. I will find out who is behind this. Don't worry, my little angel cats. Nothing will ever happen to you as long as you're with me, Vincent assured them. Everyone meowed and purred. Vincent felt so much better now. Sharinda could only think of her brave Bob. Yes, they were in love, and she wanted to marry him. Somehow this had to come out all right. Somehow they will be together forever. If only Vincent knew the truth. The next day Bob just had to come over. It was the daytime, and he knew it could be in trouble. The servants had shooed him away more than once, so he had to be extra careful. He had to create a plan to get in the secret hole and be with Sharinda. He crept along the bushes and the flowers very slowly. He looked like a little tiger creeping along after its prey. Then suddenly he noticed that the gardener was over there. Oh no, not that guy again. And he has that rake again. I know I'm too fast for him, but I can't let him see me. Bob was getting a little nervous. He hated being a scaredy cat. Then he noticed a ladder that was leaning against the mansion. It was leaning up the second floor balcony. Aha! Bob snuck over to the ladder and made his way up there. Good thing all of the servants were busy. He walked along the side railing, 1 foot behind the other. He could see the gardener, and he was busy picking weeds now. He could see in the mansion window, and the maid was cleaning the paintings with the feather duster, so she didn't notice him either. I'm invisible. They can't see me, Bob fantasized. Soon he made it over to the other cat's room. He knew that his Sharinda was in there thinking of him. He could feel it. He made a jump for it and quickly got his head into the secret hole. His tail was still sticking out, so he knew he could be in big trouble if the gardener saw it. Past, pft, meow, meow, Bob said rather loudly, as he should. Did you hear something? She asked Solitaire. Yes, it's at the secret hole. Hurry, I think it's Bob. Solitaire scampered right over there. Hi, I think I'm a little bit stuck here. Can you pull me from that side? Bob asked a bit nervously, trying not to let his tail show. Yes, hurry, Shantor, help me here with Bob, Solitaire called. Sharinda's eyes and ears all perked up. It's my Bob, come to see me in the daytime. Oh, he's so wonderful. Both Solitaire and Shantor pulled Bob through. He was a lot bigger than they were, but they were managed to get him through anyway. Wow, what a pad! This is fantastic. Is that catnip? Are those little goldfish in there? Wow, look at your cat poles. Look at the walls. They look like outside. I just can't believe this. Those can't be real trees, are they? Whoa, this is incredible. Bob just couldn't believe it. Bob went all over the place, checking everything out. There was really, he just couldn't believe this was their house. He wasn't able to see anything of it from the outside hole in the glass, just their faces. He stopped and thought about his bachelor garage for a second. How could they really have liked my place when they live in here? Bob questioned himself. It was hard for him to understand. Then he remembered this was all they ever had known. Beside that palette stuff, he remembered how they were so enthralled with his junky stuff. They really were. He loved them all so much, especially his beautiful Sharinda. Purr, purr, purr. Sharinda. Where are you hiding? Bob called out as he strutted along. Are you up in the tree? Bob jumped on the branch and looked all around, then waved to Sheikah, who was lying in her favorite spot. Are you behind the ferns? Bob flew down and went under the ferns, sneaking along the floor, and he saw Shantor chewing away on one. Are you in the log? Bob put his face in the log, and there he saw her face to meet his. He gave her a big fat tomcat kiss, and she gave him some kitty licks on his big fat striped cheek. Oh, you found me. Oh, I just love you, Sharinda said without thinking about it. It had slipped out now. Bob stood frozen and couldn't believe that he couldn't believe it, and he started purring really loud. Purr! I love you too, Sharinda. I want to marry you and we can have kittens, Bob said, not believing that sentence had come out of his big bachelor mouth. Sharinda came all the way out of the log and said, I am already yours forever. I will be your wife and I will be the mom cat and we will have lots of kittens, Sharinda said. They rolled over and over together, then went and curled up in the log inside, and just then Vincent opened the door. Solitaire, Sheikah, and Shantor went right for him. They knew what was happening with Sharinda and Bob. They were getting married in the big log. Shantor jumped right on Vincent's shoulder and licked him on the chin. Then Solitaire and Sheikah reached right up to his legs to be picked up together. Vincent did and sat on the log with them on his lap and Shantor on his shoulder. They tried their very best to get through his mind that Sharinda fell in love with the very handsome, one-of-a-kind special tomcat named Bob, that Bob saved them and was their hero, and that they will be having kittens together soon. Vincent closed his eyes for a moment and smiled. I wonder what your babies would look like. You are going to have babies for me, Solitaire and Sheikah. Vincent scratched their ears. They thought, well, at least he's getting the right idea, right? Then they thought, hey, that would be nice. It is spring. And then they licked each other's faces. Of course, Shantor still didn't care about those kind of things, yet he was still too busy to fooling around. He was happy to be a brother or even an uncle. His time for having his own kittens was a long time away. Sharinda and Bob were in the log wondering what they should do next. Now Sharinda is going to have kittens and be a mom cat, and Bob was going to be a dad cat. They waited quietly for Vincent to leave, with his mind definitely excited about having kittens in the family. Sharinda and Bob came out of the log with smiles on their faces, and they were purring very loud. Congratulations! We are going to be grandparents now, Solitaire and Sheikah said together. May you stay in love forever, Shantor said. Everybody looked at him, smiling. Shantor was growing up after all, it seemed. Solitaire and Sheikah went over and welcomed Bob to the family. They were so happy that he was their son-in-law. He was so happy that he was their son-in-law, that he was the most handsome, intelligent, strong, and brave cat that they had never ever known. He was their hero, and they loved him very much. Bob couldn't believe that they said that to him. He knew he was just a regular old tomcat, run-of-the-mill, nothing out of the ordinary kind of guy, but he thanked them profusely and put his arm around Sharinda, his beautiful wife and mom cat to be. Sharinda was so proud of him. She knew that he would be the best husband and dad cat. She adored him and was happy beyond happy. Only Sheikah had thought of it. The kittens, they will have stripes and perhaps the beautiful green eyes of the father. Then Vincent will know. Maybe he will be angry. Somehow everything must come out right, somehow. Solitaire put his paw around her. He had thought of it too. Then suddenly Shamtor yelled, "Let's have a party! A wedding celebration!" He had gotten into the catnip again. "All right!" Bob yelled, and he jumped up on one of the branches after swooping up a goldfish in one try. "Here's to my Sharinda!" Bob threw the goldfish to her, and then she caught it in her mouth. "Great catch, sweetheart!" Bob yelled, and everyone laughed. Sharinda knew she was catching on. She laughed to herself. They were celebrating for a long time. Then Bob took them all up to the roof. They sat up there and watched the falling stars. They knew they happened just for them. It was their wedding night. The next day Laura came in the room by herself. She sat down on the log, and the other cats surrounded her. Bob had gone back to his garage by then. She brought little scallops for them to eat, and fed them each one at a time. Solitaire and Sheikah knew that this was their chance to go into her mind. They let her know that Sharinda was going to have kittens, and that they were going to have stripes and maybe the green eyes. Laura received the message, but did not know it. She left the room and went out to the backyard. She noticed that the gardener's daughter was playing over there in the corner of the lawn, and she was 9, very sweet and friendly. Angie saw Laura and went over to say hello. "Hi, Laura, how are you?" Angie said. "Oh, fine, how are you?" Laura said. "I'm great. Did your grandfather tell you what happened here the other night?" Angie asked. "No, what happened?" "Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm supposed to say anything. I promise you won't tell on me." Angie made her promise. Laura promised that she wouldn't say a thing. "The other night I saw everything. I was hiding so no one saw me. Not even my father knows. He would get mad at me if he knew I was outside that late," Angie said. "What are you talking about, Angie?" "I know about all the purple cats. I saw them with the tomcat Bob, who lives next door. They were all in the trash getting leftover fish bones," Angie said. "They are so pretty. I never saw cats like that. Did you tell anybody about them?" Laura needed to know desperately. "No, I didn't. I thought that no one would believe me anyway." "So what happened next?" "Then I saw them walk down to the cliffs. I followed them and watched them play and look around at everything. Bob really loves that little girl cat. I never saw him act like that," Angie explained. "I don't think they ever saw another cat before," Laura told her. "I think the little girl really loves him. She was licking his face and everything. They were so cute," Angie laughed. "So then what happened?" "Well, I thought I heard my daddy, so I ran back to the cottage and hid under the covers." "Was it your daddy?" "No, he was sleeping." "Good thing. My grandfather doesn't want anyone to know about them. He has never acted like that before. They are our own special secret. And well, I guess you are in on the secret now. Can you keep it?" Laura asked. "Yes, I can, but the word is already out
because I went out the next night to see if they were there again. And they were. They were with Bob again. And they went to the ocean and I followed them. And then some bad man came with the up the rocks and they were dressed in black and had big black bags. Then Bob got all the pretty cats together and made them run to his house. I just stayed hidden and followed the men. Go back to your grandpa's backyard, Angie said. Oh, Angie, I didn't know. So then what happened? I hid in the gazebo until all of a sudden the sprinklers came on and the lights and the alarms. And I know who did it. It was Bob. I saw him jump in front of the little box on the wall. He is the one who saved the purple cats. Angie was so excited. Her eyes were huge and she told the whole story. Bob's a hero, she said. Wow. Did the police come? Yes, and they took 'em all away. Your grandpa held 'em off with his big shotgun, Angie said. That one from China? It's about 200 years old and it couldn't shoot a pea. Well, that's my grandpa, Laura said, and they all laughed. I wondered who those bad guys were. I wonder who put them up to it. I can only think of one person, the only one who is new here. It had to be the chauffeur. He was the one who picked up grandfather up at the airport with the other cats. He must have looked in the boxes. It is the only explanation, Laura said. I think you're right. He never even says hi or anything to me. I think he's mean. He never even smiles or anything, Angie said. You are so right. When he comes to get me from school, he doesn't say a word to me either. I just thought he had nothing to say. It always made me feel strange, Laura said. I think you should tell your grandpa. First, I want to see how they got out. Okay, I'll meet you here tonight around 9. Maybe we can see them. Deal. See you over there by the gazebo. Hide, okay? Laura said. Hey, I know how to hide, Angie laughed. Laura and Angie met at the gazebo 9 on the dot. They had a perfect view of the outside where the other cat's room was. They waited and waited until Bob came strutting along. That's Bob, Angie whispered. Oh, Bob, I know him. He's a great guy. Boy, is he big now. He sure is a handsome dude, Laura whispered. Bob walked up to the secret hole, which he had covered up with a palm tree frond that had blown off. He stuck his head in there and said, Hi, everybody. Want to come out and play? Where's my Sharinda? Bob laughed. Everyone came out of the house one by one, and when it was Sharinda's turn, Bob and her nuzzled their noses and licked each other's faces. See what I mean? They are in love, Angie said. They are. Little Sharinda has a boyfriend, Laura said. I think he is more like her husband. I think you are going to have kittens. That's how cats act, Angie said. Kittens? Oh, goody! Little kittens. I love kittens, Laura said, and she was so excited. Me too. I bet your grandpa will be happy about that, Angie said. Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that he was expecting to have tomcat kittens with Bob. Oh my, I am sure you'll understand. I think they will be beautiful, that they will have stripes, and I'll have to tell him Bob's a hero and that he saved them. I think he will love it. He's such an old romantic anyway. It will all work out, Laura said. I know, it always does one way or another, Angie said. They watched them play and roll around in the grass and hop on the roof and play tag. They sure are happy outside, Laura said. Yes, they sure are, Angie agreed. The girls watched them play until they went back into the secret hole. Bob went back to his garage. Soon after, they both quietly went to their own beds, not making a peep. The next morning at breakfast, Laura said to her grandfather, they were both drinking orange juice, when Grandpa said, Laura, I think that one of our cats is going to have some kittens. Laura didn't say a word. She just listened, drinking her juice. I really got a strong feeling about this, and I don't think it's Chica or Solitaire. I just have a strong feeling. Don't ask me why, Grandpa said. The cat vision was working. I just keep seeing stripes. Grandpa laughed. Laura couldn't hold herself back anymore, and she had to tell him everything. Grandpa, you are absolutely right. Right about what? The stripes. Sharinda is pregnant with Bob's kittens, and Bob is the big tomcat from next door. Laura had spilled the beans. That's impossible, honey. They have never left our rooms. Yes, they have. I was with Angie yesterday, and she told me everything. Then last night I saw it all for myself. I knew all about the men in the black with the bags. She told me she saw everything that happened. In fact, it was Bob who jumped in front of the security box and caught the bad guys. He saved all of them. He's a big hero. Plus, we watched them come out of their secret hole. And Grandfather Bob and Sharinda are married. They are really in love. They are going to have kittens. That's why you saw stripes in your mind. They are Bob's kittens. Laura was relieved to get it all out. Honey, are you sure? Grandpa asked. Yes, and Angie and I think we know who it is who put those men up to stealing them. It's that new chauffeur. I just know it, Laura said. You are right, sweetheart. He is already in jail, Grandpa said. Oh, what a relief. Laura hugged his neck. Well, sweetheart, let's go see them and tell them that everything is okay, that we can't wait to see the new kittens, Grandpa said. Oh, Grandfather, you are the best. Can Bob come too? Laura asked. Of course. In fact, I'll have to have the carpenter make a little secret hole and make it a little better. Put a cat door on there for 'em, Grandpa said. We will just make sure someone keeps an eye on them. How about Angie? She would do a great job, Laura said. Angie it is. I'll pay her $100 a week. You think that's enough? Grandpa asked. She is 9 years old. I think that'll make her more than happy. Laura was so excited for her little friend and couldn't wait to tell her. They both went to the room. They opened up the door and saw Shantor trying his best to catch a fish. Sharinda was lying on her back with her feet in the air, and Chica and Solitaire were not to be seen. Oh no, Chica and Solitaire got out, Grandpa said. He went to look for the secret hole when Laura yelled, I found them. They were inside of the big log. They had decided to have kittens too. Now there would always be the other kittens in the family. They knew that. Vincent would be very pleased. Laura went over to Sharinda and rubbed her soft lavender tummy. Beautiful Sharinda, you are going to be such a wonderful mother. Sharinda purred and rolled over stretching. Vincent and Vincent went and sat on the log and waited for Chica and Solitaire to come out. In a short while they were both on his lap, happily being scratched. Well, Chica, you are going to have kittens, huh? You are such a good mom cat. He pet her tummy, and Chica purred too. Solitaire saw Bob sneak in. He was hiding under the fern. Bob just couldn't stay away, especially now that he was going to be a father. He tried his best not to be seen. He knew that he would get in trouble for being there, so he didn't make a move. His green eyes peeked between the ferns. He felt very camouflaged under there. Then crazy Shantor jumped right on top of him. He thought Bob was playing hide and seek with him. Gotcha! Shantor yelled. He jumped off all fours and Laura saw him. Oh no, she saw me. I wonder if she remembers me. Oh, I hope I don't get everyone in trouble. Bob was very nervous, and he was a scaredy cat. How embarrassing. Laura came over to him. Here, kitty. Here, Bob. Come on, baby. Laura cooed to Bob. She remembers me. She knows my name. I think it's okay. Bob came to her and twirled around her leg. Laura scratched his big fat cheeks. He purred and purred. He really loved getting his cheeks scratched. So, Daddy, how you doing? Such a big guy. What a handsome fella, Laura said as she scratched him from head to toe. Did she say Daddy? I thought she said Daddy. Sounded like Daddy, Bob thought. Bob, come here, Bob. Come on. Come over here, big guy, Vincent said as he scratched on the log and patted it. It was all Bob needed to hear, and he was there on the log with Vincent. He told him that he was very happy that he saved the other cats, and he said that he was welcome here any time to be with Sharinda, that he knew all about the kittens and was very pleased about it and couldn't wait for them to get here. Sharinda stood there and listened to Vincent as he spoke to her Bob. She was so very happy. She jumped up with Bob and nestled his face with hers, and Bob licked her pretty cheek. Vincent pet her and him together. The happy little couple, Vincent told them. Oh, grandfather, they are all so happy. The only way to be, right? Grandpa laughed. Weeks went by, and it was now the time for the kittens to be born. Within the same few days, both Sheikah and Sharinda gave birth to their litters. Sharinda had hers first. 6 kittens! Bob stayed there with her the whole time. They didn't have Bob's They did have Bob's stripes, and they were lavender like Sharinda. 3 had green eyes and short fur like Bob. 3 had blue eyes and long fur like Sharinda, all with the famous stripes. They were the rarest of the rarest cats. Sheikah and Solitaire had 6 kittens too. They were all miniatures of themselves, 3 girls and 3 boys. Shantor was the best big brother and uncle. He showed them how to play. He had always been the most curious of them all. He had found them many more things. He showed them everything he knew. He all adored them. They all adored him and thought he was the greatest. Laura and her grandfather went on how many trips around the world. They went everywhere. Angie was the keeper of the cats and soon was making $300 a week. Cat sitting and something she loved to do more than anything anyway. And by that time all the servants knew about them, and they had become their friends as well. They all watched over them. Angie and Laura became the best of friends. Sometimes her grandfather would send them on fun little vacations together. They both had such great times just because they were together. Bob still was good old Bob, still a tomcat. He would go for midnight snacks, prowls, and have occasional cat fights with some of the other tomcats down the way. He loved his Sharinda and his kittens, and would bring them things from crickets to ping pong balls to them from his roamings every night. One day grandfather decided to take Laura to the palace for a visit with the king and the queen. They both rode the donkey to the top and found their way to the palace. After visiting with his old friends in the little city nestled in the green valley, grandfather brought the king and queen a gift, two of the rarest of the rare kittens to live with their great grandparents, Shantu and Tiva. The two short-haired, green-eyed, lavender-striped kittens, Shaxi and Somei. Shantu and Tiva were so happy, and so were the king and the queen. The king and the queen decided to let Shantu and Tiva go with Vincent and Laura to visit with their family for a couple of months. They would play with little Shaksu and Somei until they came back home to the palace. Sharinda and Bob had both agreed that they could live there and that one day they would visit them. When they all got home to the mansion, Vincent opened the door and let Tiva and Shantu walk in. What a big surprise! All of them purred, rolled around, and licked each other's faces. Vincent and Laura laughed and laughed as they watched them all have their surprise reunion. Solitaire was the first one to show them the way to the ocean. He pointed out the stars and the moon along the way. Sheikah and Shantor and Sharinda gathered the rest of the kittens together, and they followed in a line behind, swaying their tails in the moonlight. They all looked up in time to see the falling stars. They all knew that they had fallen just for them, to celebrate their surprise reunion. Naturally, Bob had already was sitting on the rock, waiting for on the cliffs. He had caught the lizard, and when they met him, he gave it to them as a big gift. They had never seen a lizard before. They had never seen a huge, magnificent striped cat before, plus those big green eyes. They had all heard of the stories of his bravery and were completely taken with him. After watching the ocean and the waves, Bob gave them a tour of his famous garage. He decided to give them his feather duster. It may as well have been a real chicken. Shantu and Tiva were so completely impressed with all of his junky stuff. They couldn't stop talking about it for days. Bob just kept smiling. They spoke of the day when they would all go to the palace to visit their other kittens and the king and the queen. Bob had never ridden a donkey before. Of course, he had never seen a palace before. The end. Happy ending. Okay. Bye-bye for now.